Hello everybody, welcome to the lecture video for Chapter 1 in the Glickman textbook. This is for supervision of instruction. This is going to be a very quick lecture, but a good opportunity to expose you to what our textbook is specifically looking at, and this is our more theoretical of the three textbooks in the class. One of the things that you're going to see that I'm going to do, this is the primary textbook for the class. This is the one that Oklahoma State has determined that we should be using. It's really theory-based, where the Catcher book, that's the teacher walkthrough book, is going to be much more practical. It's going to be a research study on how teachers can be involved in the walkthrough process. And then the Sullivan book is one that I used to use when I worked at my previous professorship. And that one's going to be more observation tools that can be used in the classroom. So I want to cover the theory and I want to make sure that you understand it, but I do want to note that anytime that we do anything from Glickman, it's going to be very theoretically driven. One of the things that I have to mention and why I think this is an important subject is the fact that all throughout P-12 education right now, instructional supervision in the form of teacher assessment is huge. Most research, most articles, most journals have at least one article per issue that focuses on the observation cycle and how you can link effective principal observations to student learning. So I would argue this is the most important course that I teach in the master's program, but I would argue finance could be as well, depending on what day of the week it is. So different books, different discussion for a different day more than anything else. So this really is also one of the most popular dissertation topics in the United States right now. Teacher evaluation is extremely sexy in research. The good thing is everybody's doing it, but the bad thing also is that everybody's doing it. If you're planning on pursuing a doctorate in educational administration and you're going to specifically look at the building level, you really should know the theory behind teacher and administrator supervision and walkthroughs. In terms of the role of the superintendent in this, I don't necessarily think so, but I think in terms of what the responsibility is for teachers to know on a walkthrough or an observation, and for principals to know on a walkthrough or observation, this is fairly important. So one of the things that you're going to notice is this idea in Glickman that you see the V capitalized, and I don't want to touch the smartboard because it'll advance the slide, but when you see the V, that stands for supervision. Supervision can be construed as a lot of people as management, but if we add the V and make it capitalized, the authors argue that this relates to mission and vision of the school, which, as you know, in our leadership theory class, EDLE 5813, that topic is probably the most important topic in the course. Think about different types of schools and how supervision can work in each of the models when you're thinking about vision and mission of school. So we're going to have three different types of schools and three different models. We're going to have a conventional school, a congenial school, and a collegial school. I present for you the definitions on slide 6, but I'm more worried about giving you a little bit more of an overview when we're looking at each one of these a little more at a time. So your conventional school is your traditional top-down old school school. In a lot of ways, these are schools that have been doing the same things over and over again, or schools that have been given instructions to shape up or ship out. So how I normally define this when I'm teaching this in a face-to-face class, I'm saying these are going to be your schools that are performing just good and they're doing okay, or these are going to be your large urban school districts that potentially could be a D or an F school. Supervision in these schools is going to be hierarchical. It's going to follow specific procedures and processes, and that's going to be one of the things that you have to look at. Congenial schools are your just swell schools. We had a student last year who worked in what I would consider to be a just swell district. She said that it was a B+ and B school, and everybody was happy. It was above average. Most people get check pluses on their evaluations. They get good gold stars. The score remains good. And nobody's rocking the boat. So in terms of observation in a congenial school, it's basically the principal comes in, does what they need to do, make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and then moves on to the next observation. And that's your congenial school. We're striving for this model. We're striving for the collegial schools model. These are the schools that challenge the system and are trying for continuous improvement. These are your A and A+ schools, or your schools that are going through major reform. and the principal has a lot of autonomy in that reform. Supervision, it really is something where the principals and teachers work together. The teachers can even be involved in the supervision models as well. The goal of this model is so that teachers do not fear supervision and instead encourage and welcome it, and sometimes they want it from other teachers as well. So, 5 elements of collegial supervision. Let's take a look at these. I'll read these briefly. You're going to have a collegial rather than a hierarchical relationship between teachers and formally designated supervisions. I think the way that you accomplish number 1, more or less, is through multiple observations throughout the school year and giving the teacher choice over which observations potentially could count. Supervision should be the province of teachers as well as formally designated supervisors. I think that that's also important as well. The supervisors have to know what they're doing, and so do the teachers. The goal of any supervision model should be teacher growth instead of teacher competence. You're doing this to make sure that the teachers are acting, are growing and not just acting appropriately in their class. If you can somehow tie supervision into teachers working together, we're going to talk a little bit about professional learning communities in this class, but that model really is how teachers can collaborate and work together. And if the teachers are involved in ongoing reflective inquiry, meaning that they're taking their observations, they're looking at them, and they're saying, well, now what can I do better? That's a sign of good supervision as well. So, the big questions for this class are as follows. There are no right or wrong answers, but we're going to ask, how do you accomplish this? What are the keys that make this happen in a school district or building? Can you, as a building leader, do this in your building even if your district doesn't have the culture to do so? I want you to think about these three questions throughout our course, and if you think those are issues that are worth discussion, it's definitely something that I hope you come up with and you can relate it to your own organizational context throughout the rest of the course. So, when we lectured on from the Sullivan text, we realized that the word supervision itself is a problem. People consider the word an issue because it basically says, you know, we're going to control you, we're going to put you in line, I'm supervising you, I'm pointing down at you. Try to think of supervision more or less as a way to reach out to somebody and to help them. If you can use it to help teachers so that they can do supervisory activities well, I think that's a good idea too. And we're going to talk about helping teachers become supervisors a lot in the capture text when we get to that. So this is an argument that these authors say it can be done. But I will need to stress this, that in some districts this model will never happen and it will never work. There's nothing that I can say in the context of Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, Montana, any states that can say that teachers should be able to supervise in any district. In most districts, teachers are not going to be supervisors. You're going to be lucky if you have 1 or 2 buildings in a district that might have a culture that lets that happen. If you can have peer supervision, which, as I said, we're going to speak about in the one book, I think that's going to help you understand it and understand the positives that go along with it. So, the other thing that we can look at is the purposes of teacher leadership. Why do we give teachers autonomy? You can read this on your own, but these are 5 pretty solid reasons of why teacher leadership matters and the importance of teacher autonomy. So think about what the importance of teachers as a different set of eyes can be. It can absolutely help. Some of you are going to be administrators at the high school or middle school level. There is no way that you will know all of the subject area that exists at the middle or high school level. You're not going to know it. So having teachers as another set of eyes can help, and they can help you with the curricular models that you may not be familiar with. We all know that good instruction is good instruction. There's nothing I can say that will change that, and if you're in one of these classes anyway, you should know what good instruction looks like, and if you don't, that's certainly something that you have to think about. If you have a good relationship with your teaching staff, you really can have them help out and give assistance, but you have to build and create that culture first. So if you can do this and you spend time as a building principal, remember, your average building principal is only going to spend between 4.5 to 5 years in the building, but if you've built a good relationship and a good culture, you certainly can do this at your building. So this textbook is going to go over 8 technical and cultural tasks involved in instructional supervision. It's going to go over direct assistance, group development, professional development, curriculum development, action research, facilitating change, addressing diversity, and building community. Those 8 issues, some are technical, some are cultural, are going to shape pretty much our entire course as we look at the Glickman text. So that's it. I'm going to skip chapter 2 and 3 since they're also looked upon in the Sullivan text, but Glickman Chapter 4 is the theoretical chapter. It's the one that looks at adult learners, and it's the only exposure we're going to have to adult learning theory in this entire course. So if there's anything that you need on this, I really encourage you to visit that textbook. Thank you.